MIRAIDON is just that good. The Birmingham Regionals has just finished the first Regulation G tournament of the season, and MIRAIDON just keeps on winning. He's literally just carried on from where he left off from Worlds and won this past weekend. We're going to be looking at a few teams today just to see what kind of the meta is shaping out to be. If you enjoyed this content, let me know by leaving a like as well as hitting that subscribe button. It helps me out a ton. But we will be looking at a few teams from this past weekend. There are actually quite a few to go for because there were quite a few restricteds coming up in the top 8, which was quite surprising. So we're going to be looking at the top 8 team done by Flavio Del Pidio. Apologies if I get that wrong. But this is a Groudon variant team. A few Groudon teams popped up. I think 2 popped up in the top 8, which is quite surprising. I was not expecting Groudon to pop up as much. I thought a lot of people was going to go more to Kyogre side, which was quite interesting. But yeah, it was quite surprising. So of course we roll up with the Groudon with the clear amulet. This way it stops Incineroar from lowering it down anymore, which means you can put immediate pressure on from this jump. You have Drought, of course it does, because you can set up the Sun very, very nicely with Groudon, being a ground type as well, meaning that you can get the jump on grass types with your allied fire type Pokemon, since the Sun is there to boost up extra damage, which is nice. And of course going into the Terra Fire, which helps you get away from said grass types as well, which is obviously quite nice. We also have the Precipice Blades, of course you would for Groudon, as well as Heat Crash, Stomping Tantrum, and Protect. Very, very simple game plan here for Groudon. You just bring him out and you just immediately do damage and pressure, basically from the jump. It is quite incredible. It's an incredible Pokemon to go through. And yeah, Groudon hitting top 8 was actually really, really surprising. It is paired up with the Half Flame Ogerpon as well. I think Half Flame is I think it's the most popular Ogerpon this past weekend. I didn't see a lot of other ones. I didn't see a lot of Cornerstone or Wellspring coming up in the tournament. I think a majority of it was Half Flame. So I think right now Half Flame might be the meta. It might change as the meta goes on, but we'll see how this flies out. Of course, the standard set of Ivy Cudgel, Horn Leech, Follow Me, and Spiky Shield. It has to be Terra Fire if you have the Half Flame as well, so there's no point talking about Terra typing. Horn Leech can get swapped out with Wood Hammer. Some people run a bulkier Ogerpon with Horn Leech. Some of them run a faster, more damaging Ogerpon, but with Wood Hammer. So it kind of goes tit for tat. So you can go with that either way, depending on how you build your Ogerpon. We have a single strike Urshifu with the Focus Sash, again because it is not really outspeeding Fluttermane. Kind of makes sense that you'd want to keep it alive since it is timed 4 weak to fairy type moves, and Fluttermane is of course all over the place. Unseen Fist as well as the Terra Dark, pretty much standard for our single strike Urshifu. Wicked Blow, Close Combat, Sucker Punch, and Detect, again pretty much standard moveset as you would see from a single strike Urshifu. We have the Incineroar with the Rocky Helmet, as well as the Terra Water, not the Terra Ghost, which is quite interesting. But I guess for this, it was to help steer clear of just other Pokemon that can deal damage to Incineroar as well, which is obviously quite nice, as well as getting that water resistance as well on other water type Pokemon in case the Sun is not out there. And also knock off Will-O-Wisp, Parting Shot, and Fake Out, a very defensive, very supportive Incineroar. Very nice to see, very, very nice. And the Jumpluff. Jumpluff has been coming up a lot in Groudon teams, just because of how quickly it can get through with the Chlorophyll ability. We did see this paired up with Torkoal at the end of Regulation H, which is quite nice. Sleep Powder, Rage Powder, Encore, and Tailwind. It is a very, very good Pokemon to help you kind of set out the field. It's always going to be a problem whenever you see it on the field because of just how freakishly fast it can be, especially the fact that it can set up Tailwind. It's got Rage Powder for redirection, Sleep Powder as like a pseudo Spore, as well as Encore as well, just to keep things a little bit more annoying, which means you cannot ignore this thing. You have to hit this thing outright. It's just really, really tough, especially when you've got like really heavy hitters like Urshifu, like Groudon, like Ogerpon, and of course the Raging Bolt as well with the Assault Vest. I honestly think Raging Bolt is amazing. Like with the Assault Vest as well, it's just a pure juggernaut. I think every team that I've made so far in Regulation G, I have always put in Raging Bolt. I think it's an amazing Pokemon to deal with. Thunderbolt, Electro Web, Thunderclap, and Draco Meteor, pretty much standard set. Sometimes you'd see something like a Snarl as well, just in case, but we've swapped that over with the Electro Web and the Thunderbolt as well, which is quite nice. Going into the Terra Water as well, just to keep yourself safe, just a little bit extra from those Ice type moves, as well as those Ground type moves being neutral damage rather than super effective, which is always quite nice. Next up with another top 8 team done by Junxi Zhu. Again, apologies if I mispronounced that, with the Ice Rider Calyrex. Ice Rider did not appear as much as I thought it would appear. We'll show the graphics in a second for like the top cuts, so like the top 12 restricted Pokemons in a second, but from the matches I saw, I didn't really see Ice Rider that much. This is the only Ice Rider, I believe, that happened to pop up in top 8, which was quite surprising. Again, clear Amulet, steer clear of Incineroar. Going into the Terra Normal here, I guess to stay clear from Shadow Rider Calyrex as well, since Shadow Rider is pretty much a big problem as well. Glacial Lance, Horsepower, Trick Room, and Protect. standard set for Ice Rider Calyrex, which is quite nice. The only variation that was different here is the Terra Normal. That's pretty much the only thing you see differently here on the Ice Rider Calyrex, so it's quite nice. You have a very, very good support here in terms of Grimmsnarl, going with the Light Clay as well as the Terra Ghost to stay clear of a fake out, so that way you can just start setting up your screens immediately thanks to that Prankster ability. So Light Screen, Reflect, Foul Play, and Thunder Wave. Very, very supportive Grimmsnarl. Grimmsnarl I think is just absolutely amazing. Screams are very underlooked in my opinion. I think screens are an amazing factor to put in here. It's great. It's an amazing Pokemon to put in, and I really do like Grimmsnarl. We have the Iron Hands as well to help you stay clear in the Trick Room as well, with the Fake Out, Wild Charge, Drain Punch, and Heavy Slam with the Assault Vest. Again, standard set that you see on the Iron Hands. A lot more people are going towards more Terra Fire, since not many people are using ground type Pokemon, and you do have kind of a way to stay clear of water types as well, thanks to that Wild Charge, which is always a great thing to deal with. And you also have the Drain Punch to stay clear of rock types as well. So you do have coverage on everything except for the ground typing. But again, you have Ice Rider Calyrex here that's just ready and waiting to just hit any ground type, which is obviously just a plus. You have Landorus as well, in case you are not able to set up Trick Room. This is one of your fast options here, with the Terra Water to stay clear of Urshifu, and the Sheer Force Life Orb combination just doing absolutely immense damage. Earth Power, Sand Siege Storm, Sludge Bomb, and Protect. Again, pretty much standard stuff that you'd see off of the Landorus. There is the Amoonguss. Of course, Amoonguss is back and running all over the place with the Rocky Helmet. Terra Water as well. You either see Terra Water or Terra Fairy, something like that. Regenerator is always a nice ability to have for Amoonguss. Spore, Rage Powder, Pollen Puff, and Protect. You see sometimes Pollen Puff, you see sometimes Sludge Bomb. It kind of works either way. I believe in more times, if you see a Trick Room set, it is more Pollen Puff to keep Ice Rider Calyrex alive within Trick Room. And if you outside of Trick Room, I believe you see more Sludge Bomb. That's kind of like the pattern that I keep seeing. You do kind of see it switched up sometimes, but yeah, Pollen Puff and Sludge Bomb are definitely interactive with each other. And of course, the Rapid Strike Urshifu, another fast option, again, just in case you are not able to set up Trick Room or you just get out of Trick Room as your fast sweeper. Mystic Water, Unseen Fist, Terra Water, Surging Strikes, Close Combat, Detect, and Taunt. Normally you see Aqua Jet or things like that, but this time we are running a Taunt, which is quite nice because this way it stops you from having your opponent support Pokemon going even further beyond and doing even more crazy stuff outside of Trick Room and things like that. So they can only get up one practice ability at a time, or just other random things like that, which is quite nice. It's a quite nice tech there for Rapid Strike Urshifu, and I think Taunt is going to be a move that we're going to see a lot more in the format, because I think Taunt is very, very useful in this format, especially on Pokemon that don't have Prankster like Urshifu or Fluttermane, etc, etc. Next up is the top 4, and we're going to be looking at this Terrapagos team played by Alex Gomez, one of my favorite players to watch in any tournament. He's an amazing player. I really, really do like his playstyle. It's very, very nice to watch. And yeah, this is the highest rated Terrapagos of this past weekend. So we have the Terrapagos with the leftovers and the Terra Shift. Of course, when it goes into Terra Stellar, you remove weather, you remove terrains, which is obviously quite nice. And then obviously with the other form of Terrapagos, any move that hits it when it is at 100% will always be resisted, which is obviously a quite nice move to go for there. Obviously the Terra Stellar, since it can't go into anything else. Then it runs Protect, Calm Mind, Terra Starstorm, and Substitute. The Substitute is quite a good tech there because it keeps Terrapagos safer for even longer. And Substitute also makes it a lot harder. It's not the easiest Pokemon to clear off the field, so you add that Substitute on top of its bulk, especially when it goes Terra. It is very, very hard to get rid of, especially in that Substitute. So it is quite a crazy move to go for there, but yeah, Substitute's a very good tech there, and I really do like that tech. Substitute's a very good tech there, especially with the Calm Mind set. This thing will not go down. Again, with the Assault Vest, Raging Bolt, Electro Web, Dragon Pulse, Volt Switch, and Thunderclap. So just a nice way to get Raging Bolt back into position into other Pokemon here. With the Volt Switch, we've swapped out Draco Meteor for the Dragon Pulse. With, again, so you either swap out Power for accuracy, which is always just like a heads and tails thing with Raging Bolt, and it can go either way. You can make things work either way. A lot of people go for Draco Meteor for the damage, and of course, Dragon Pulse is more consistent but does less. So yeah, it's quite a nice thing to see for Raging Bolt there. And again, there's no wrong answer in that situation. So if you want to run either or, it's perfectly fine. You have the classic Terra Ghost, Safety Goggles, Incineroar. Pretty much same moveset here. Fake Out, Knock Off, Parting Shot, Will-O-Wisp. Again, instead of running Flare Blitz, you run the Will-O-Wisp as well. This locks down other physical attackers, like especially that Ice Rider Calyrex as well, considering that Ice Rider Calyrex doesn't go down with Intimidate because of its clear amulet that it always likes to run, so Will-O-Wisp is a nice substitute for that. Next up is the Mystic Water Terra Poison Rapid Strike Urshifu. It's a very nice Terra to go for here because you have the Terra Poison, so you stay clear of those fairy types, i.e. Fluttermane, since Fluttermane is running around all over the place again. Protect, Close Combat, Surging Strikes, and Aqua Jet. Again, pretty much standard set that you would see from an Urshifu, is quite nice. Next up is the Booster Energy Fluttermane. This is quite straightforward since Fluttermane has mostly done Booster Energy throughout this tournament. And it's quite nice as well, since a lot of people like to boost up Fluttermane's speed, and this thing becomes a complete speed demon. The thing even rivals your opponent's Tailwind users, which is quite nice. The fact that one item lets you compete with even Tailwind is quite something. Going into the Terra Fairy as well to get extra damage off that Moonblast, as well as Taunt, Thunder Wave, and Icy Wind. No Protect on this Flutter Mane as well, so this thing is just straight up an offensive support here. Icy Wind to slow everybody down, Thunder Wave to get that paralysis boost, Taunt to stop things like Trick Room going up, and of course Moonblast to have your big output there on damage. And it is Moonblast over Dazzling Gleam because you have things like Pelipper and Zamazenta and even Mienshao that like to run Wide Guard to try and prevent you from making any damage. So Moonblast is a good substitute, as well as having that secondary effect of potentially lowering your opponent's special attack on whoever you hit. So things like Raging Bolt will suffer from that, things like Calyrex suffers from that, which is obviously just a really nice thing to go for there. So I very much like this tech. It's a very nice tech for Flutter Mane. And then finally is the Amoonguss with the Terra Fire to stay clear from other fire types, as well as steering clear of ice types as well. Looking at you, Ice Rider Calyrex, as well as Chienpao, as well as that Rocky Helmet, Protect, Sludge Bomb, Spore, and Rage Powder. Like we said, Sludge Bomb and Pollen Puff kind of go hand in hand. So again, since we're not seeing a Trick Room set here with the Amoonguss, Sludge Bomb is working better than the Pollen Puff here, which is obviously just the way to go for in this situation. Next up is Federico Camporesi's top 4 Zamazenta team. Now, I really do like Zamazenta. Zamazenta is the Pokemon of my choice as well as restricted. I just feel like Zamazenta is a lot of fun, especially if you've got things like Body Press and Heavy Slam. It's a very amazing Pokemon to deal with here, and it is such a force to be reckoned with here. Definitely not something that should be underlooked whenever you are team building. It is a fantastic Pokemon that can really sweep games if you're not paying attention. Holding the Rusted Shield, which obviously gets it to its Crown Shield form, which gives it a +1 defense boost, which buffs up, of course, the Body Press. Going into the Terra Dragon as well to steer clear of other fire types. Looking at you, Chi-Yu and Incineroar and even Torkoal inside of Trick Room. So it's quite nice to deal with there. Body Press, Heavy Slam, Protect, and Wide Guard. This is pretty much the standard set that you see on Zamazenta. Sometimes you might see Wide Guard swapped out with an Iron Defense. That way, if Zamazenta gets switched out, you can bring him back in and use the turn to set up Iron Defense quite nicely. But we're seeing that a lot less in the format right now, so it's kind of getting replaced with Wide Guard because, of course, Wide Guard shuts down things like Calyrex's Glacial Lance or Astral Barrage. It shuts down both of them. Precipice Blaze on Groudon, Origin Pulse and Water Spout on Kyogre. It shuts down quite a few things, so it's quite nice to see that Wide Guard is a very useful tool in this format, and definitely something that should be considered when building. Next up is the Terra Electric Raging Bolt, more of an offensive Raging Bolt this time, again with the Assault Vest, Thunderbolt, Thunderclap, Draco Meteor, and Snarl. Like we said, Snarl sometimes gets replaced with things like Electro Web or, you know, all these random other things. So yeah, so Raging Bolt, Assault Vest, definitely something to look forward to there. We have the Chienpao with the Focus Sash and the Terra Ghost to stay clear of Fake Outs, as well as those fighting type Pokemon that want to hit it since it is times 4 weak to fighting. Ice Spinner, Throat Chop, Sucker Punch, and Protect. Ice Spinner is kind of taking over more so than Ice Cold Crash, simply because Ice Spinner can get rid of Miraidon's Electric Terrain, Rillaboom's Grassy Terrain, and Indeedee Psychic Terrain, which is obviously all 3 of them are a problem if they help get set up quite nicely. So it's a very nice tech there for Ice Spinner. And again, very cool thing there to use, and Tianpao is just absolutely amazing, especially when paired up with Zamazenta. It is such a force to be reckoned with. Tianpao is just such a beast. We have the Booster Energy Flutter Mane again, this time with the Terra Grass. This helps it keep alive to things like, say for example, the Amoonguss Range Powder or the Amoonguss Spore. You want Flutter Mane to keep consistent and keep on building up pressure, and just it helps really nicely, especially on things like Urshifu as well, which can pretty much one-shot this thing with a Surging Strikes, especially if it goes Terra, especially with the Rain, and especially with the Mystic Water as well, which is definitely not something that is out of the equation there. So it's quite nice to see. Moonblast, Shadow Ball, Taunt, and Icy Wind as well. Standard set for a Flutter Mane. Again, the Amoonguss with the Rocky Helmet. I'm not going to go too much into this because it's basically the same set that we've seen in the past as well. Sludge Bomb because it's outside of Trick Room. Pretty much what you see. And the Choice Scarf Chi-Yu with the Terra Ghost to steer clear of Fake Out. Heat Wave, Dark Pulse, Overheat, and Snarl. This helps buff up not just Flutter Mane, but also Raging Bolt as well. This can do so much damage so quickly, and this also gives so much support in terms of its Bead of Ruin ability to Flutter Mane and to Raging Bolt. Definitely not something that you want to kind of look past here on a Zamazenta team. It is insane. Next up is the second place Oliver Escalin Kyogre team. Kyogre did really well. Kyogre did fantastic in this tournament. Honestly, it did very well. I'm very happy with Kyogre here. Good job on Kyogre, hitting the top 2 spot. It was very cool. Hitting with that leftovers as well to help keep itself safe, and the Terra Grass. This is pretty much a standard set for Kyogre here. If it's not Choice Scarf going into Terra Water, most times you would see the Terra Grass, because of course this helps you stay clear of Rillaboom, so you stay clear of Raging Bolt. 2 Pokemon that really threaten Kyogre in this situation, so it is a very nice tech there to have Kyogre go into the Terra Grass. Definitely something you want to think about as well. Origin Pulse, Ice Beam, Calm Mind, and Protect. If this thing starts setting up Calm Minds, this thing can sweep with the game very nicely. Also a good idea to use Origin Pulse rather than Water Spout, since Water Spout does more damage, but it only does more damage if you have higher HP, and you don't have Pokemon that can really redirect. The best you have is an Amoonguss. but then if you've got like spread moves, it doesn't really help you anyway. So it's a very nice tech there to put in Origin Pulse, sacrificing that whole needing higher HP factor to have a consistent damage output throughout Kyogre's lifespan in every game, which is really good in terms of tech there. Of course, we have the Rapid Strike Urshifu with the Choice Scarf and the Terra Ghost as well. Again, steering clear of Fake Out because this thing is so freakishly fast. Surging Strikes, Close Combat, U-Turn, and an Aqua Jet. This thing boosted in the rain is just a demon on the field, and definitely something that you have to look at all times. We also have the Roaring Moon with the boosted energy. Again, quite a nice tech here, considering that it is Park Dark, so you don't have to be worried about prankster taunters like Whimsicott, like Tornadus. You can kind of just get going with your Tailwind as much as you like, and considering boosted energy, I'm assuming is going to help boost the speed. Most times you are not outspeeding this thing anyway, and again, much like Floodamane, this thing can compete with other Pokemon inside of Tailwind as well, which is obviously quite nice. You've got the Terra Flying as well to boost up with the Acrobatics, since you have a Pokemon that is not only stupidly fast, but it's just uses item, which means Acrobatics is going to do so much more damage, plus the Terra Flying is going to do so much more damage than what it originally is going to do, as well as the knockoff as a nice dark tech there for that stab damage. We have the Rillaboom as well to set up that grassy terrain with the Assault Vest. I think it's Rillaboom and Assault Vest just goes hand in hand here. I don't think you want to see Rillaboom with anything but Assault Vest. Also going into that Terra Fire as well to stay clear of other fire type Pokemon, and as well as ice types as well. Drum Beating to lower speed, which is quite nice because you normally see Wood Hammer, so Drum Beating is quite a nice tech there as well. Always nice to get like a speed dropping move here, so Drum Beating kind of fits that bill. Grassy Glide, Fake Out, and a U-turn as well. This Rillaboom was surprisingly fast. I don't know if it was because the first place team's Ogerpon was really slow, or Rillaboom's one was really fast. I think Rillaboom was actually really fast in this set. I kind of want to like experiment with that and see exactly how fast Rillaboom was. So yeah, it's quite an interesting tech there. So it was quite interesting, most definitely. We have the Amoonguss here, pretty much same set. Spore, Rage Powder, Sludge Bomb, Protect, Rocky Helmet, Regenerator. This time going into the Terra Steel, because since you are in the rain, you don't have to worry so much about fire types, since fire types get nerfed a little bit inside the rain. So Amoonguss kind of has a little bit more freedom to mess around with in that aspect. And finally is the Safety Goggles, Terra Ghost, Incineroar, Knockoff, Parting Shot, Fake Out, and Will-O-Wisp. Same set that we always see. Incineroar is just a great Pokemon, and again, since you are in the rain, there's no point having Flare Blitz since it gets nerfed itself. So Will-O-Wisp is a very good substitute in that option. And of course, we have the first place team done by William Basilino, the MIRAIDON team. Not just the MIRAIDON team, the MIRAIDON team that also won Worlds last year. This is so crazy to me. The fact that it not only won Worlds at the end of the regulation, it won the first tournament where Regulation G became legal again. That is insane. The fact that it went 2 for 2 in technically tournaments back to back, it was allowed, is quite insane. The Choice Specs MIRAIDON with the Terra Fairy as well, Electro Drift, Volt Switch, Draco Meteor, and Dazzling Gleam as well, just packing on so much damage so fast, especially with that Hadron engine. Just hits so freakishly hard. We have the Ogerpon as well with the Half Flame Mask. This one was a lot more of a bulkier Ogerpon in my opinion, considering, like we said, it was slower than the Rillaboom on second place team, which was quite interesting. But yeah, we kind of want to see how that plays out there. Ivy Cudgel, Wood Hammer, Follow Me, and the Spiky Shield as well. Again, quite nice there. The Terra Fire giving it a +1 boost as well. That Ivy Cudgel did so much damage, especially I think in one of the matches it did 50% on Kyogre when it was Terra Grass inside of the rain. The fact that the fire typing was nerfed in the rain and Ogerpon still managed to pop off 50% on a Kyogre, and I don't even think it was Terrid, was so crazy to me. Like, that is absolutely insane that Ogerpon managed to pop off that amount of damage inside the rain and with no Terra and with no +1 attack boost. That is insane numbers, absolutely insane. We have the Focus Sash Rapid Strike Urshifu with the Terra Stella. Normally you would see Terra Water, and yes, this would get you extra damage on Surging Strikes all of the time, but with the Terra Stella, you do get a one-off boost on the close combat, and most times since Urshifu does run as a sweeper, you're gonna just use close combat maybe once, maybe twice, but considering that like you would need that double boost for close combat first, the second one you won't need that boost so much, so Terra Stella kind of works out in that situation here. And again, considering that Urshifu is going into Terra Stella, you don't need to worry so much about defensive typings or anything like that. You just have Urshifu there just to hit as hard and as fast as humanly possible. That is literally its whole entire job. Hit fast, hit hard, just go until the Focus Sash keeps you alive, and then just keep going after that. That's basically the best you got. We have the Farigiraf with the Electric Seed, which goes hand in hand with the MIRAIDON, going into the Terra Water as well, which also helps it stay clear of just things like Ice Rider Calyrex inside of Trick Room, since this thing wants to kind of be a defensive role here, a supportive role with the Foul Play, Psychic, Trick Room, and Helping Hand as well. I believe the first place for Rigarath at Worlds was Terra Ground because the Miraidon did Discharge, I believe. So yeah, going into Terra Water instead, considering that you don't really need to worry about ground, because the whole point was that it would have the Electric Seed mid Miraidon, it would go Terra Ground, and Miraidon could still pop off Discharge while Farigiraf would stay alive and give it support with Helping Hand, things like that. You don't have to worry about taking out your own team. So yeah, so now you switched it around with the Terra Water as well to help it stay alive in front of things like the Ice Rider Calyrex as well. You have the Terra Dark Whimsicott. This helps it steer clear of other pranksters, as well as the Covert Cloak as well to steer clear of fake outs. You also, of course, have Prankster yourself, Moonblast, Encore, Tailwind, and Light Screen. Again, with that Encore, with that Light Screen, Whimsicott is such a problem to deal with here. You need to get rid of Whimsicott because it will help your team run away with the game if you don't take care of this guy. I love Whimsicott. I absolutely love Whimsicott. It's one of my favorite Pokemon of all time, and it's really nice to see Whimsicott in the top spot yet again. And finally, but definitely not least, the Iron Hands with the Assault Vest, the Terra Poison to steer clear of Fairy types as well, Drain Punch, Low Kick, Heavy Slam, and the Fake Out as well. This was absolutely amazing to see this team pop off yet again. I am so amazed that Miraidon managed to pop this off again. But one of my favorite times in this video is talking about the most popular Pokemon of the event. And going into day one, it was pretty straightforward to see who exactly was in the top spot here. Both forms of Calyrex just hit the top spot so nicely here, going on 17.9 for Shadow Rider and 17.2 for Ice Rider. Miraidon also clashed with Ice Rider here, also being at 17.2%. The top three, of course, you'd want to use these three. Both forms of Calyrex was just pretty straightforward. Both of them can hit so much crazy damage, as well as keeping themselves safe with the defensive Terror if they really need to. And Miraidon, obviously, because it won Worlds, a lot of people want to try out the team that won. A lot of people want to try out just Miraidon in general, just from how crazy it was, the fact that it obviously won Worlds. We also have Zamazenta in 4th place at 16.2, not too far off from 3rd place, because Zamazenta again is one of the best Pokemon in the Reg G format. It's getting only better because of that body press, steering clear of Incineroar, not only steering clear of Incineroar's Intimidate, but also one-shotting Incineroar, essentially forcing it to Terror, which is really good for the game plan here. You've just got a lot of good ways for it as well, especially since, again, like we talked about before, Wide Guard being able to steer clear of just so many Pokemon in this format. Then after that is Kyogre, who went all the way down to 9%. There is a 7% difference between 5th and 4th place in these restricted. So you can really see how crazy this synergy was with the top 4 in comparison. But Kyogre did very well here. The 9% is very nice. Rain obviously being, in my opinion, the best weather again in this format. Sun might take over for now, in my opinion. Like, of course, we have Koraidon as well, which can set up the Sun and also get a boost. We have Groudon, who started to come up a lot more in usage, considering that it got top 8. I think Groudon had the most appearances in the top 8, so it's quite nice to see, in my opinion. We have the Terapagos at 7.2% as well, which is obviously quite nice. Terapagos, I feel like it has quite a good niche here in the metagame. I honestly don't think it might win a tournament, but I think it's going to have quite a good staple there. But of course, I could be wrong, and Terapagos could come through and actually win in the end. We'd never know. We could see. But Terapagos is a very good juggernaut when you want to make it that way. So I have faith in Terapagos that it's going to do very well in the future. But I guess we'll see how time plays out. And of course, the Sunset is going in the 7th and 8th spot. Koraidon being at 4% and Groudon being at 3.5. Both of these guys just fit very well, especially since they fit with so many past Paradox Pokemon like Floodamane, like Raging Bolt, and of course like Roaring Moon as well when you see it here and there. So I feel like these guys can have a good future here in the metagame, and I really want to see them do well, especially Koraidon. I think Koraidon would kind of be a sleeper pick at some point in the regulation. I want to see Koraidon do very well, and I can't wait to see how well this thing does. Then going into the top 12 regular Pokemon of day 1, Urshifu, of course, being up at the top spot. I think everybody was just ready and waiting to use Rapid Strike Urshifu. It's no surprise there. 46.4% on the Rapid Strike Urshifu. It's just so good. Urshifu is just really good. Stays clear of Incineroar as well. It helps get rid of so many Pokemon in the format. It's just absolutely insane. Rillaboom hitting the 2nd spot with 34.6%, and then Incineroar with the 29.7% in the 3rd slot. But of course, the top 3 Pokemon are just such a good core to have in any team. They all fit like most teams in general. They all fit each other just very nicely. You've got U-turns on Incineroar and Rillaboom. You've got the Intimidate factor there. You've got Urshifu just being an absolute speed demon. You've got Rillaboom with priority. You've got Rillaboom and Incineroar both having fake outs. Incineroar just being this absolutely supportive tank of a Pokemon. It's just great. They're absolutely great. It's no wonder to see these 3 hit the top spot, and I'm pretty sure these 3 aren't going to budge from the top spot. They're probably going to swap between each other, but I do not see these 3 budging from the top spot at any point at all during this entire regulation. We have the Fluttermane hitting the 4th place spot. Of course, Fluttermane being the most popular Paradox Pokemon. It's just great. Ghost typing is just an amazing type to have. Ghost Fairy on top of that is also a very good typing to have, considering that you are neutral to dark type moves. And Fluttermane can just have a lot of good toolkits here. You can make it supportive, you can make it fast, you can make it strong. There's a lot of good things you can do with Fluttermane, and I am not surprised that Fluttermane takes the 4th spot here. But you do have other Pokemon as well. You've got Amoonguss, Raging Bolt is around. You've got Whimsicott and Farigiraf. I'm assuming to see all these Miraidon teams get paired up with. You've got the Half Flame Ogerpon as well, which is doing very good at 20%. Iron Hands as well, being the only past Paradox Pokemon on this list. And of course, the 2 Treasures of Ruin Pokemon, Chien-Pao and Chi-Yu, only having a 0.7% difference in 19.9 and 19.2 respectively. It is quite insane to see these Pokemon come up, but also not out of the realms of possibility that all these 12 Pokemon are just really, really good in the format. All of them are really, really good in the format, and get ready to see pretty much a good chunk of them pop up here and there throughout most of this regulation. And going into day 2 of these restricted Pokemon, a lot changed. A lot changed. Miraidon literally went to the top spot at 21%, and it's also tied up with Zamazenta, also at 21%, which is honestly insane. Ice Rider Calyrex is still staying firm at 3rd with 18.5, but Shadow Rider dropped all the way down to 5th. Shadow Rider Calyrex from day 1 was at the top spot with the most usage as a restricted Pokemon, shooting all the way down to 5th place at 9.9%. which is absolutely insane. But it does go to show that whenever everyone was setting up for Regulation G, the first Pokemon that they had in mind was Shadow Rider Calyrex, because this thing is absolutely insane, and it's pretty good to see that the meta is kind of looking at Shadow Rider to think how can they deal with it more than anything else. And it kind of goes to show that everyone was pretty much ready for Shadow Rider Calyrex. I think the same thing happened when Reg G came around the first time. Everyone was just ready for Shadow Rider Calyrex, just trying to see what can be done. So it was kind of interesting to see, you know, the same thing happening again. But Ice Rider Calyrex again as well, coming up, just staying in the 3rd place position here. I think now everybody's going to try and think about how to deal with Ice Rider Calyrex more than anything else, considering that Trick Room is just a lot stronger to deal with, in my opinion, especially with Ice Rider in this regulation. Kyogre going up to 4th place as well with the 11.1%. Terrapagos, Koraidon, and Groudon all staying at the same spot here, but Terrapagos and Koraidon staying at the same usage, while as Groudon has gone down at 2.5. But even though Groudon is 2.5% in usage, that is still enough to be considered as the top spot for restricted Pokemon. Barely anybody else is using any other restricteds, and honestly, I think these 8 Pokemon are going to be the main restricteds that we see. Maybe someone will come out of the gate and try another restricted. Maybe we might see Lunada in the future, maybe Eternatus. I know those 2 have been popping around here and there. But in terms of the top 8, I wouldn't be surprised to see these 8 stay in the top spot for a very, very long time until someone else kind of masters another Pokemon here. And going into day 2 of the top 12 non-restricted Pokemon, I was going to say watch out for the Fire, Water, Grass trio of Rillaboom, Urshifu, and Incineroar, but Amoonguss kind of came in and stole that. All of a sudden, hitting 2nd place at 42%. Urshifu, of course, is still being at the top spot at 53%. Rillaboom and Incineroar going down to 3rd and 4th respectively. Raging Bolt coming up in usage, same with Farigiraf. Whimsicott has now gone out of the top 12 here, getting replaced with the Single Strike Urshifu. So nice to see Urshifu as well also coming back here. Chi-Yu's getting more usage than Chien-Pao, which is quite nice. Fluttermane dropping in usage as well. I think everybody, again, much like Calyrex, is just getting ready to deal with Fluttermane since it's just so strong. Iron Hands doesn't look like it moved so much from the spot it was in at day 1. So nice to see Iron Hands being really, really nice and consistent. And of course, Ogerpon as well, getting dropped to 12th place. I think it's more so that not a lot of people really know how to shift Ogerpon, considering that you have a good fire type in Incineroar. You also have a good fire type in Chi-Yu. You've got things like Torkoal as well that want to run in Trick Room. You've got other grass types as well, like Amoonguss, like Rillaboom. And I know a lot of people don't like to overlap their typing, so it's a very, very difficult spot to have Ogerpon there, considering that you just have a lot more support and a lot more tech in other typings that Ogerpon shares with those Pokemon. So it's kind of weird to see, but at the same time, I can also see why you'd want to use Ogerpon. It is an amazing Pokemon to use, and I just hope that Ogerpon gets some love in the future. I really do like Ogerpon. I'm an Ogerpon fan. I'm also being quite biased on this and just want to say I really want to see Ogerpon do well in this regulation. I really want to see it keep showing up in the top 12 spot, but that's just me. But anyways, guys, that's it for today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, please leave a like, as well as saying what your favorite Pokemon was in this tournament, as well as what your favorite Pokemon is in this regulation and who you are excited to be using again. But thank you guys so much for tuning in, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care of yourselves. Okay, bye.